Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Triangle BNI. My name is Mike Manning, and each week we give you a wonderful success story from Triangle BNI. If you're not familiar with BNI, it's Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle. If you're not familiar with kind of central North Carolina, it's a Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. We call it the Triangle here. Going on 30 chapters, almost 700 members, small business owners, people working for small businesses, trying to grow their companies. Each week we get together and meet to pass referrals to each other, try to help grow each other's business. You can go to trianglebni.com and get some more information on that. Each week we bring you a success story here, and our guest this week, Drago Braddock, founder and lead developer of Oak City Technology. Drago, glad to have you here today.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
So Drago is in RDO4 OpenEye BNI. They meet Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. in the Fusion Room at the Frontier over in RTP. Wonderful location, easy to find, all kinds of business going on there.
Can't say enough good things.
One-to-ones going on out there, people doing it on their computer, phone calls and everything. It's a wonderful place for business to happen. I know you have an office there as well too, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Like you said, it's a great co-working space. So downstairs on the first floor is a lot of opportunities to rent to people from all kinds of walks of life.
All right, so each week in the BNI chapter, there's a featured speaker, and it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, depending on how big the group is. And the speaker is introduced by our member bio sheet. So, Drago, this is how we do it each week. So,
All
we're going to
right.
start with this. So, our speaker, Drago Braddock, founder and lead developer, Oak City Technology. That is you guys produce websites
Yep,
and help
websites
people
and
market.
digital marketing. That is
Okay.
correct. Yep.
All right. Location, you're in the Frontier.
We're in the Frontier
Talk
in
about
Durham.
that.
Yep.
How long you been there?
We've been there since 2015, so about 3 years now.
Okay.
Oh.
My second favorite question in all this, previous types of jobs, and I have your post-college. I want to go back before that to high school.
That's the
You
more interesting
You have a
one.
good story.
I do have a good story. Looking back, yeah. So long and short of it is I didn't realize this until, talking to some friends like Mike. But looking back, my first job was actually in a legitimate sweatshop. So the story is I used to make sports jerseys for in terms of like Pop Warner stuff for other children. So we'd go in after work. We'd use the pressing machines to make different kinds of jerseys, football, basketball, that type of stuff, you name it. And then once the day was over, they would pay us under the table in cash. And that was it. Legitimate sweatshop.
I died laughing the first time I heard that. And so how long did you do that?
Not too long because that was like during middle school and sports was starting to become a thing. So probably at best 8 months.
Okay.
8 months to a year,
But
maybe.
good cash. You were a rich guy back then,
It was
weren't
great.
you?
Yeah, great cash. Like, yeah, work after school for 3-4 hours, come home with $70. Not bad.
What'd you do with all the money?
Probably video games. I don't remember, but probably video games, if I had to be honest.
And where was that?
That was in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay. All right. How long did you live there?
I lived on the best way of saying I lived on the West Coast up until I came over here to North Carolina for college.
Okay.
So pretty much up until 2004, I was on the West Coast.
Okay. Sounds good. Next section on the bio sheet is personal information, spouse.
Yeah, I'm married.
Mhm.
Afton. She's the most wonderful woman in my opinion. Can't
right.
say enough good things.
I like that.
We also have 2 dogs. They're both Anatolian Shepherds. Big dogs.
Okay. Nice food bill.
You can say that. Yeah.
Okay.
They,
All right.
they eat better than we do.
Right.
Yeah.
So I always ask people, married people, 2 questions. How did you meet? And do you both tell the story the same way?
If funnily enough, I'd say we would tell the story the same way. And we met in the most, how do you phrase it, stereotypical fashion.
Okay.
So I'm always saying, I'm gonna meet my wife in a normal place and blah 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 blah. But it turns out I met my wife in a bar of all places. Never intended on even going out that night. What happened was my friends dragged me out, her friends dragged her out,
Yep.
and then magically all of our friends just left us and we were sitting there chatting.
Okay.
That was the end of it.
Huh?
Long story short.
And
that's
where
it.
was this?
This was in Rum Runners in downtown Raleigh.
Yes.
The
Well,
Jewel and Piano Bar.
and that goes back to another BNI mandate. Just show up.
Yeah, it's true. Half of life is just showing up.
Because you think
Absolutely.
back, if one of you 2 didn't go,
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
yeah.
legitimately, that night I did not want to go out.
Yeah.
This was during my phase where I was kind of phasing alcohol out of my life, so
Okay.
I wasn't really
Mhm.
interested in going out that much. So that night particularly, I was not interested, but my buddy dragged me out, and I was glad that they
Alright.
did. Yeah.
Alright. Very nice. And the second date was how long after the Rum Runners meeting?
I'd say probably a week and a half later. It was
Okay.
actually her idea. She invited me out to play some disc golf, and she grabbed a couple beers. That it was actually kind of cold, so we left them in the creek while we played. And then when we came back after playing, they were cold in the
Okay.
creek.
And who won the disc golf match?
So I don't remember. 'Cause
Didn't matter,
We,
did
we,
it?
we don't keep track. We don't keep
Okay.
track of the score.
Not a problem. Hobbies and activities of interest.
Well, since we're on the topic, I love
Mhm,
anything outdoors, especially
mhm.
disc golf, especially during the warm months. I love playing disc golf. Camping is right up my game. I love camping. Pretty much anything outdoors. Outdoors is my.
So how cold will you go camping?
Well, that depends if someone was willing to go with me. By myself, I'm not that willing to,
Yeah.
go out there in the trenches. But if someone's coming with me, we'll go down. We got sleeping bags to go down 20 degrees,
Okay.
so we'll go down.
Alright.
Yeah.
And how cold does it have to be before you pass on disc golf for the afternoon? Where your hands numb and you can't feel the
Yeah,
freezing?
basically, yeah.
Okay.
Hands got to be numb. It's got to be snowing. There's got to be sleet on the ground. Yeah, disc golf. You can bundle up and get
Yeah,
out
okay.
there for that.
Alright,
Yeah.
and do you still play a bunch?
Oh yeah.
Both of you?
Every opportunity we get. We used to actually play in tournaments when we had more free time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
but now it's just a very casual thing.
Yeah. Okay. Your burning desire is to
To actually disseminate my nutritional knowledge around the planet. I'm very, very passionate about nutrition. I actually went to school for biochemistry and nutrition. All of my programming and technical knowledge is as a result of basically building things as a child. So I was very fortunate to get America Online. Some of you may remember that out in internet land. I was very fortunate to get that during my youth. So I basically spent my time breaking things on the internet and fixing them to learn how to program. It's later in life that, in college, I started learning more about nutrition and it became a huge passion. So one of my end goals with all this technical stuff and nutrition knowledge is to disseminate my knowledge across the world, so I can kind of help squash diabetes and obesity, which is a big problem in my family. Personally,
and we will get to that, talking more about that because I know it's a big part
yeah,
of
absolutely,
who you are and what you do. So
big
we're
part.
gonna
Yeah,
get to that. The key to your success.
key to my success is everyone phrases it a little differently. Some people say the golden rule. I like to call it the 51-49 rule. I like to impart 51% of the transaction onto the other person. So whoever I'm working with, whether it's business, personal, I always try to make sure they get the better end of the deal, and that's always worked out well for me.
Very nice. My favorite question, and we have some new people out here who may not have met you yet.
Okay.
Something no one knows about you.
Something no one knows about me. Well, that's a tough one. These are tough for BNI. Now you're putting me on the spot live on air, Mike. Come on. Let me think here. Something no one knows about me. Well, one of the things I did during my early 20s that not a lot of people know is I was an amateur cage fighter. So I
Really?
did jujitsu,
I
Muay
did not
Thai,
know
stuff
that.
like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Mm.
That's a little known fact. It's probably the biggest thing.
How'd you like that?
It was great. It was what I needed in that time of my life. I needed a challenge, a physical one, because
Mhm.
I was not ready to enter the world of business. I still had athletic tendencies. Let's phrase it that way. I still needed to do things. I unfortunately messed up my knee, so I was not able to play college basketball. I needed to find a second outlet, and that's where that came.
Okay. Were you headed to play college basketball before
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I was actually supposed to play for Sendek until I messed up my knee.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's what got you to state.
yeah. That's what got
Oh,
me to stay.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I didn't
But
know
the
that.
summer before, I just completely messed up my left knee, and my basketball career was
Oh,
over.
no. How'd
Yeah,
you mess up the knee?
jet ski accident.
Was it your fault?
I mean, more or less, I was the one operating. So
Oh,
yeah, yeah. You
no.
you can't always take into effect, ocean conditions, but I was the one operating. So yes, my fault.
What'd you hit?
Well, it wasn't what I hit.
Or
It
what
was it
happened?
was the angle at which I hit the ramp because I did exhibitions. So I lived on the West Coast. So we would do stunts, tricks, stuff like that. Just one time I didn't hit the ramp properly and that's the money.
What was the goal? You were to hit the ramp and you were supposed to
I
do
was
what?
a barrel roll.
On a jet ski.
Yeah. Very doable. Very, very
Oh,
doable.
you young kids
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
crazy. So did I'm assuming you did not make it all the way around.
Well, yeah. Well, no, I did make it, but the point is on the way over, I clipped my knee on the side of the ramp and that's what did the damage.
Oh.
But
Oh, that's too
it
bad.
looked good on video, but when you see the video and you know what happened, you can see where my knee hit the side of the
Okay.
ramp.
And
Yeah.
you knew it as soon as you hit it
Yeah,
on
oh,
the
I knew
side
it.
of the
I
ramp.
knew this. Oh, this is gonna be some damage, but it is what it is. I was young and I wasn't really thinking.
Well, and let's go back to showing up to the bar to meet your now
Okay, yeah.
wife. If you'd have played college basketball, I wonder if you'd be doing this today. Oak
See,
City Technology,
that's a good
yeah.
question. There's no way to answer that, right?
Right? Yeah.
Hindsight's always 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, always thinking back what could have been, but
Very
yeah,
cool.
there's no way of knowing.
Oh,
Yeah,
very cool.
yeah,
So what I love about this show, the
yeah,
stories that come out. So
absolutely.
Herb Sendek, and it was funny, he went on to go back to Arizona to coach at Arizona
That
State.
was
So
that was an irony. Yeah, I just left there. He's like, "All right, Drake, I'm out."
you can't play for me, I'm
Yeah,
leaving.
I'm
Oh.
leaving. Yeah.
Okay, so Oak City Technology, websites, and I love about this on how you guys explain yourselves. Websites should be attractive and useful.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't see it that way. They just feel like they have to prop one up just to say, "Oh, I got a website."
Yeah, that or even the bigger mistake is making your website look like a newspaper from the '50s. Just throwing text on there and hoping people find what they need. That's
Okay.
a big, big mistake.
Yeah. So here we are ended middle what no, sorry, we're early December. Oof, getting
Yeah.
ahead to Christmas
It got
break
quick.
already. All right,
Yeah, it
yeah,
got
mailing it
quick.
in, yeah. So tell us about the status of Oak City Technologies, where you guys are, what kind of gear you've had.
We've had a fantastic year, and one thing I'm very happy to report is usually December is our super, super slow season.
Mhm.
This year, it's not, for lack of a better term. We have steady business throughout December, and that has not been the case in the past. So this year, we're up probably 70% over last
Oh, very nice.
year.
Okay. How'd you guys start? Who started Oak City Technology the first day? Who was there when the door opened?
That is a open-handed question. So the best way of saying that, Oak City was probably the idea of it was born when I was 15, because that's when I made my first professional website.
You were doing those way
Yeah,
back when.
I was
Yep.
doing those way back when
Yep.
as a freelancer, non-LLC'd individual.
Okay.
So college comes around, I need to make money to pay for college and other things. I keep designing websites, so that becomes a prominent thing. Then after college, I graduated into that 2008 recession, which is,
Perfect. Yeah.
ain't that
Perfect.
great. So I was not going to be getting a biochemistry job at that time. So I fell back on my design and programming skills.
Huh.
So at that time, I talked to all my friends who were interested in kind of doing things on their own. One of my friends was interested, and so we decided to start together, me and Rob.
Mhm.
And that was just two of us in the beginning. There was no one else.
Okay.
Fast forward X years down the road, every time I meet someone new, either through BNI or through the course of life, we always talk, and one thing leads to another. Sometimes those people start working with me. So over the course of X years, I've acquired a crew that works well with me, about 6 people strong all year round, and we've ballooned up to about 12 during our busy
Okay.
seasons.
Is your wife involved in this?
No, she's not. She's a
Okay.
physician's assistant, so she's in the medical.
Okay. Any other family members involved in it?
No,
Okay.
it's a
All right.
solo operation.
Do you remember your first client
Remember my first client?
and how you got them?
I don't know if you could technically say they're a first client, but I remember the first major project I worked on was for my high school's website. It was just, for lack of a better term, awful. It was from a different age, and they literally started a class, teach people how to program. I'm like, I already know how to program. Can I help the teacher
In high
teach?
school.
Yeah, teach. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
Can I help the teacher teach and also build the website? They're like, that's a great idea. Let's do it. So
Okay.
that was my first big exposure to like a smallish website, because the high school, in my opinion, at that day and age, was a big project for
Yeah.
a kid.
So who got you hooked on technology? Somebody in the family usually is what I found in the past is somebody in the family got them turned on to
Yeah,
something, whatever
no,
industry
actually,
they're
but
in.
let's go back to story time.
We
So,
like that.
yeah, we like story time. So, honestly, what got me into technology was 1980s comic books and action figure memorabilia. So, when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, I had quite an extensive collection of comic books and action figures. We're talking Transformers, He Man, stuff like that. And, as a kid, I wanted to show this stuff off. So, I built a very terrible website, in my opinion, didn't really work. So, at that point, I went to school and asked my teacher, like, can you teach me how to program? Because I want to learn how to do this on my own. I showed her the work I had already done. She's like, Drago, this is great. Here's where you messed up, but here's some learning materials to kind of get you on the way. And that's really what did it, was me wanting to display my kind of memorabilia collection from the
Huh.
80s. That's
Okay.
really what got me into tech.
How much of that stuff do you still own?
Almost every single piece of it.
Good.
I was not willing to get rid of it because I knew one day that could literally turn into a down payment for a house.
Yes, and so for most of us my age, we grew up with baseball cards
Well,
back in the
yeah, I
in
had
this
those
yeah,
too. Yeah, yeah.
and those are all gone, and we've all we
Those were even losing value in the 90s, though.
true,
Yeah.
and we've all had conversation with our parents of, "When I left the house, why'd you throw those away?" And,
Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
makes sense, we're cleaning out all
See,
this stuff, so
I was smart before I left for, college. I packaged everything up, I sealed it up in bins, and I put it under the house, so it wasn't going anywhere.
smart,
Yeah.
smart. Do you remember your first Oak City client
First Oak City
or
client.
how that came up, or maybe one of your first ones or first
Yeah,
big one
they
you had?
they kind of came about all at once, so to speak. One of them was, a local painter, um, and the other one was like a little Montessori school type thing.
Okay.
Are you familiar with
Yeah,
Montessori? Okay,
mhm,
yeah, it was like a local Montessori school.
okay. Who's your longest running client to date?
Longest running client to date. Oh, that's a tough one. I
Mhm,
never really think about
alright,
stuff like that.
okay, we can come back to it.
Yeah, we might wanna come
No
back to
problem.
that one,
Alright.
yeah.
So I do like the fact that because a lot of people just think they're okay telling people, "Oh, I have a website," and that's all serves a purpose, and it really doesn't because it has to be
It
there's
has
gotta
to
be a
do
reason for them to go
something,
there,
yeah, it has
right?
to do something,
So
yeah.
what have you learned over time as things continue to grow? What what's changed today than maybe even like 5 or 6 years ago with the website and what its useful purpose is?
So, There's 2 ways I can answer that, and the first one I'm gonna say is nothing's really changed from the marketing human aspect, which
Mhm.
is good. The way you should talk to people in terms of being genuine, being open, that hasn't changed. Some of the back end things in terms of intricate marketing have changed, like how you should write articles so they show up on search engines, stuff
Okay.
like that.
Yeah.
The minutia of that is changed and probably will continue to change, but the rock solid tenet of marketing in terms of gotta know people, that part hasn't changed. That's why you have to design websites so people can read them and not robots.
And with as technology, which I think I'm comfortable saying every half hour it changes, right?
More or less.
The, uh, the conversion to mobile websites messed up a lot of companies because you get on the phone and their
Yeah.
website was not built for mobile, was it?
Yeah, so that happened probably, I wanna say 3, 4 years ago, around
Yeah.
2012, 2013 age. Google was like, "Hey, we're gonna start pushing this mobile thing first, so everyone needs to have a website that can show up on phones." And that, like, as you said, a lot of people were unprepared for that
Mhm.
for 2 reasons. They didn't have the investment money to make a whole whole 'nother website, but what some people did in the interim was build a mobile website and a desktop website, which is a whole whole 'nother can of worms.
Don't get you
Yeah,
started.
don't get me started on that one. The long and short of it is you're shooting yourself in the foot if you're making 2 different websites for one.
Yeah, you can't do that. It doesn't make
Not
sense.
anymore, yeah, especially
Yeah,
when Google said, "Make sure you have one responsive website." And what responsive means is it changes shape depending on if you're on a phone or a desktop.
gotcha. Okay. And now pretty much that's standard in all
Yeah,
the
yeah,
websites
it's
you
gotta be. It's
okay.
standard in all the websites we make, yeah, we won't make a non-responsive website because that doesn't make sense,
Yeah,
but most other platforms, even your Wix and your Spaces of the world still have responsive design.
okay. So people come to you saying, and I'm one of them, come to you and say, "Hey, I wanna do this." Is it better that they know what they want or they just turned over to you and say, "Hey, here's my goal. Can you help me figure out the best way to"
Both. It's honestly both. So if you know where you wanna go already and you know
Yeah,
how you wanna get there, assuming it's a great plan, I can help. But I'm also gonna be there to say, "Oh, hey, this ain't a good idea," or "This is a good idea." On the flip side, if you don't know where you're going, that's part of the reason I'm here to help too. We can
yeah.
sit down, I can ask you questions related to where you're trying to be, and then we can kinda plot out a path from there.
So what do we think we want on a website that you know doesn't work?
Think we want on a website. This is actually a great question. This has happened a lot in the last 3 months. Fancy dancy graphics and, like, moving objects. That was fine literally before June, but then in June, Google started pushing page speed update, which means basically if your website doesn't load a certain amount of time relative to your competitors, it's gonna get marked down. So at that point, we literally
Oh, okay.
scrubbed all the extra cool, pretty stuff off of our
Yeah.
own website. We had, like, nice moving graphics that if you clicked, it would follow your mouse around, stuff like that. We
Okay.
got rid of all that because Google said, "Hey, we want speed, not prettiness right now."
And your company has a wonderful, relationship with Google. You guys are the only Imma let you tell it 'cause I'll mess it up, but you are the only company in town.
That has a perfect 100 on the Google page
Okay,
score. So
so
we went to the effort of making sure the website is exactly how Google wants it in terms of the requirements for speed and loading, and ours gets that perfect 100% green bar.
and why are you guys the only one in town that have
To be perfectly honest, it's not 100% easy to do something like that. So even web agencies with incumbent, web developers such as myself, they might not ever have the time or expertise. There might be a client who requires their attention, so they might not have time to do that on their own website. So
it?
it's a matter of time and expertise.
But do you guys see it's that important
It is that
to a
important. I'm
client?
a web agency, so if my website isn't perfect, why would you hire me?
Mm,
Think
fair
about
enough.
it that way.
Yeah,
I have to kind of eat my own dog food, put myself in the client's position.
okay, I
Yeah.
like that. Couple things on your website that just cracked me up.
Sure,
A
sure.
couple quotes here. You tell us about this because I know
Yeah.
there's a good story behind it. It actually says on your website, 99% of people don't market in the year we actually live in.
Yeah.
Please explain.
Yeah,
I think I know what
there's
you're talking
yeah,
about,
I
but
mean, it's as simple as the statement says. So a lot of people are trying to use techniques that are from a different time and age to market in 2018. One of the prime examples of that is people trying to use other social media platforms besides kind of what's in right now. So what's really hot right now is, for example, Instagram. If you're trying to sell any type of product or product-based service, Instagram is the place to be versus
okay.
let's say the Google AdWords of 1999. So
Yeah,
it's a stark contrast between those 2.
yeah. And I know one of the things you've talked about, at a couple of times when you've been the speaker to BNI meetings I've been at, is the difference between the Google AdWords and Facebook advertising. That's changed as well. Like I said, go back to about every 30 minutes, something
Yeah,
changes, right?
that changes as well. So the big thing is Google lets you obviously the search engine, right? You type
Mhm.
stuff and it gives you results. It's based on that. It's based on search intent, like what you want. Whereas Facebook advertising kind of flipped the script on everything, and you use Facebook, I use Facebook. They gather data about us. So all that data has to go somewhere, right? It goes to advertisers.
Yep.
And so we're able to target literally based if someone's trying to find a Mike Manning, we can do that. We can find, that individual who lives in Durham who has a show who's interested in podcasting. So
Yeah.
all these different pieces of demographics you can use on Facebook to target who you're looking for, which is way different than used to
Oh, yeah. And I hear a lot of times when people are talking with not novices, but maybe people one step or two steps above novice who are on trying to grow their business with social media. And I know probably some people watching here too have come across that. Is I've had people tell me, oh, yeah, as soon as you post something on Facebook, immediately hit boost. And I get
be.
conflicting answers on
Yeah, that
that.
and you're probably gonna get conflicting answers until, for lack of a term, Facebook issues a statement about what the different types of things actually are. But from my impression after working in the industry, boosting a post is almost a borderline waste of money. The one thing we do know from post boosting is when it says right near the area, it says this is for engagement. So the purpose of that is for to get likes to your page or something like
Yeah.
that, which is fine if that's what you want. But most of the people who come to us, they want to generate leads for their websites. They want customers. That's why we prefer to use the actual advertising
Mhm.
platform rather than boost.
And I know in the stuff I've learned from you and some other folks who do this, you need engagements are far more impressive than likes and far more beneficial and productive than likes to a page,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So me going out and interacting with my target demographic and then possibly interacting back is much more valuable than trying to hit boost on a post and get a like on a page.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
and when you promote your nutritional uh the nutritional part of things you want to get people talking about, it really doesn't do you any good if I just like it. You want me to talk about, oh yeah, in my family I've had this or this. Because
Exactly. I want to hear about your
yeah, because you're not gonna
experiences.
learn anything or you're not gonna grow your product if 572 people like it and only one person's commented.
Exactly. It's the commenting, it's the feedback that's really valuable.
That because that's more likely a client. If I start talking to you about that, I have a better chance of maybe becoming a client of yours to buy the product or whatever you're talking about versus if I just went on there and clicked it and then liked it.
Yeah. Or by you commenting, I now have the opportunity to comment back, and that might make
Yeah,
me look even better to
yeah,
maybe your spouse or your sister or something who needs that
yeah.
service.
Do Google and Facebook read those differently as well, likes versus interactions?
I can't say with 100% confidence right
Okay.
now. There's a lot of stuff that's behind red tape, so to speak.
Yeah.
So a lot of us SEO people in social media have to guess at some of those things. So unless I have a concrete answer, I don't like to answer.
And how much heads up time do you get from Google or Facebook when they're
None,
gonna change
absolutely none. I'm very fortunate that I have friends that work at these places, so I
Oh,
I get internal memos maybe a
okay.
year, 6 months in advance. So I knew about this page speed update back in June, a year before it happened. So we
Oh,
were preparing well in advance. We made sure our clients were ready, and we
oh,
were
yeah.
also informing other people like, "Hey, this is coming. You should get ready."
Alright. So anybody listening here who wants a website, they should go to Oak City Technology right now
Yeah,
because
we're
it
we're in the know.
but one of the things I ask people is my favorite is, well, what differentiates you from your competition? And my favorite answer is, "Oh, I've been in the market 20 years." And then tell me
Mhm.
anything. So is something like that would differentiate you from your competition, right?
Oh yeah, my relationships both in and outside of the actual technology industry is what sets us apart. One example I can give is recently we had a client come to us who needed to, for lack of a better term, fix their Google business page. And it literally disappeared and went out of nowhere, and they needed to come back. And also along with that, their author bio disappeared, so they needed help on figuring
Ooh,
what was going on. So I just called my friends over at Google, figure out what was going on. Turns out it was nothing anyone was doing wrong at the time. It was just an error that Google was having on their servers. They ended up coming back a few days later. But the point was, I was able to get into contact with someone who told me exactly what was going on. I told my client the situation, and they were put at ease.
okay, very nice. The other thing that cracked me up was, no, it's not 1999. Yes, email marketing still works.
Yeah. So piggybacking off what we were talking about a few minutes ago, like marketing to the time you're in, email marketing still works, folks. Even though invented back in the day, not 1999, but even in 2019, which is right around the corner, email marketing still works, especially if you're in e-commerce.
Done correctly, because nobody wants to be
Yes.
spammed to
No,
death.
exactly, yeah, so we'll do a little caveat to that is don't spam people, make sure you have quality content that appeals to them or is of benefit to them. Yeah, don't spam.
Right. I know. I don't mind signing up for something to get information
Yeah,
on, but
if you're interested in it.
don't hit me
Yeah,
twice a day with
yeah.
something. I'll unsubscribe real fast. So,
Our Oak City newsletter, I actually say we send these emails out whenever we feel like them, not very frequently. So don't
okay.
worry about
Okay,
spam.
good. I
Yeah.
like that. Okay, so BNI. So you've been a member of BNI, you've been OpenEye BNI. When was literally the first time you ever heard of BNI?
First time I heard of BNI was actually in college when I wasn't interested in it whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah, I just heard it was in the same conversation as a Chamber of Commerce event, just because I was doing some event. I can't remember what it was, to be honest. We were promoting some event and I went over to the Chamber of Commerce. Someone was like, oh hey, you should try BNI, blah 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 blah. It's for this type of stuff. And at the time it just went over my head.
Yeah.
It wasn't what I was looking for. But the first time I heard of it was actually when I was not really in a business mode whatsoever.
Okay. So
Yeah.
when you were here, did you hear were you aware of it? Did you have a conversation with somebody here locally before Oak City was formed or after about BNI or joining a BNI or even visiting a chapter?
Hmm, that is a tough question. I'm trying to remember. So the best way of answering it is all that kind of happened all at once.
Mhm.
Oak City was started, and I immediately sat down with everyone that was going to be helping out. I was like, "Hey, what can we do to market a non-existent business?" And that's when B&I came up in the
Okay.
conversation. I remembered it from
Okay.
college. I'm like, "Hey, is this something maybe we should explore?" We
Okay.
decided.
And how many chapters did you visit other than Open IBN?
Well, when searching for our first BNI, we searched probably 3 or 4, and
Mhm.
we were in Cary originally. But then obviously our office was in Durham, so that wasn't working out for us too well. That's why we decided to switch over to a Durham-based BNI, and we looked through probably, again, probably 3, 4, 5 chapters until we found one that the people resonated with
Yeah.
us.
So when did you know that 2 months in, 4 months in, when did you know that, okay, this is kinda working for it, to be in BNI, to promote, to grow Oak City
Rogue
technology?
City. So, in terms of, like, really
Mhm.
working,
Yeah,
it
when did yeah.
probably took 6 to 8 solid months because it took me realizing how BNI actually worked to
Mhm.
make it work for me. And what a lot of people, even in BNI, make the mistake of is not asking for what they need. It's asking is really, really important.
We tell people all the time, ask for, be specific. Specific is terrific because if you stand up and say, "I wanna meet anybody that has a small business,"
That's all of
I got
us.
nothing
Yeah,
for you. There's nothing that's gonna jog my memory, but if you say if you give me a specific name or a specific company, now I'm thinking, "I don't know them, but my next door neighbor or my friend," so now
exactly. It gets the gears
right, so
turning.
now I get to thinking, but a lot of people stand up and go, "Hey, I'm looking for anybody that's
Yeah.
breathing," or,
And that was the biggest thing for me because we were one of those people that said,
yeah,
"Hey, we're looking for small
mhm,
businesses."
especially when you're starting
Yeah,
up.
exactly. We were starting off, so like,
We'll
"Yes,
take
we'll work with
anybody.
anybody. We'll work with anyone." But then, yeah, the specificity thing really kicked in about 6 or 8 months in. I started specifically asking for specific things, and it worked out.
What kind of things did you start asking for once you saw that was working?
Just specific demographics. So, one week, say, we're trying to connect with lawyers, another week, we're trying to
Okay,
connect with real estate agents,
yeah.
et cetera, authors.
I know you've been big on the authors. Tell us a little bit about
Well, yeah,
why you want that.
that's just an industry that I'm personally more interested in. I am myself an amateur writer. I've been writing some science fiction and fiction-based books since high school, and that's something that not a lot of web agencies have in their portfolio. So naturally, I'm like, let's mend these two worlds. I enjoy writing. I enjoy authorship. I enjoy books. Also enjoy helping people. So let's try and get some of these people that I haven't really worked with in the past. And a lot of web agencies don't work with authors for pretty much the overhead reason, like, we can't charge as much
Mhm.
as we could a larger company, but that's fine. It's a different type of work, so it all kind of falls into place.
Yeah. And have you had some success getting authors by asking for them through BNI?
Yes,
Okay.
both in twofold. So we wanted to meet authors both to work for them and, provide services to
Mhm.
them, but also we wanted to meet authors so we could learn more about their industry and how it connects to, PR and media,
Yeah.
because those worlds aren't the same, but they blend and they talk together.
Okay. I got you on that. So Drago's background is very impressive. There's many things you do and have going on. We're going to go through a couple things that, and all these things are currently going on. So you're a busy man. So I like that.
I like staying busy.
I like that. Founder and lead developer of Bit
Bit
Basics.
Basics, yeah. So Bit Basics is a local educational nonprofit for Bitcoin and blockchain. So, long story short, without getting into the weeds, back in 2009, a very cool technology was invented called blockchain that allows us to do a lot of things we weren't able to do before. We'll just leave it at that for now. The purpose of the meetup is to kind of get information out there about this type of stuff that isn't commonly available to the public. And it started as an educational meetup, and that's what it's been for the last 4 or 5 years. So.
And there's always a number of topics that people bring up that instantly gets you half the room on this side, half the room on the other side, and Bitcoin does that, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a very polarizing subject for lots of reasons. It's a financial
Mhm.
instrument, it's a technological instrument, so there's lots of things for people to kind of pick and go after. Yeah.
Is this going to grow Bitcoin? Where do you see it going?
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of the people. If you ask me, I've been in it since day zero, so I see the value in both the technology and the currency side of it, the Bitcoin and the blockchain. I see value in both. So the short answer is yes. I see both going up in both a financial and a technological sense. I see blockchain being integrated into more things in our society that requires record keeping, and then the Bitcoin. It's right now kind of not really mainstream-ish. It's in the news, but not a lot of people use it as a day-to-day currency, and that I think is what's gonna change the next 5, 10.
And for novices like myself, you agree? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
really?
It's slowly already changing.
I know
Yeah.
there's one in the South Point Mall. I
Yeah.
think
Are you talking about
there's
Rise?
yeah.
Yeah.
You pay with
Donuts. Yeah, yeah.
Bitcoin.
I was actually one of the first customers there when they
By
started
the way,
accepting
Rise
it. Yeah,
Donuts,
yeah,
outstanding.
yeah, yeah,
I don't use Bitcoin, but
yeah.
I do like Rise
We
Donuts.
all like
Yeah,
donuts, yeah.
exactly. In its simplest form, for somebody like me, how can you explain blockchain?
Blockchain.
Is there a way in its simplest
Yeah.
form?
So the way I like to describe it, think of a huge record keeping database
Okay.
that everyone can use and no one can manipulate. Think of it that way. So
Oh,
a big think of a big piece of paper that Mike can say, "Hey, I'm sending one of my bitcoins over to Drago," and that's the end of it. You say that, and that's what it is.
okay.
It's in record. And the beauty of it, why it can't be forged, is because there's lots of different computers looking at the records at all times. And for you to send me money, you have to have a very specific number in
Okay.
order to do
Right.
that. So
Okay.
we'll keep it simple.
Okay. I got you. If you want to meet more people like Drago and BNI, we recommend you go to, we've got on the screen there, trianglebni.com. You can give us a call at 919-465-1667. Talk to Steve or Mary or Brenda. They'll be more than happy to help you out, give you some information. Even if you have an idea of starting a business or you've got one or you've got a family member or a friend that is in that situation, we'd love for you to come out, just visit a chapter, just come see what it's like. I think you'll like it. It's seat specific. So Drago's the only marketing person in his chapter. So once everybody in his chapter gets to like, know, and trust him, when they hear somebody saying, "Oh, I need help with my website," they just say, "Got to call my guy Drago. He'll take good care of you." And that's the beauty of BNI is we pass qualified referrals. We don't pass leads by saying, "Oh, Drago, a friend of mine was talking about his website. He hated it, but he doesn't know you're going to call." That's a lead, folks. If I talk to my friend who said, and I say, "Can I have Drago call you?" And he says, "Yes." That's a qualified referral. And if you're good enough in your business, which most people in BNI are, their closing rate is pretty good. And that's the beauty of BNI is the qualified referral we give to each other. So we'd love to have you come out and visit a chapter. If you go to Triangle BNI, you can search chapters. They're all over the place, all over the Triangle, morning, mid morning, and lunch, 5 days a week. So you'll be able to find something for you. Another thing you have on your, resume here, jack of all trades, master of some. I
Yeah,
like that. That describes many people.
that does describe a lot of people. And it's one thing I like to describe myself so I don't get pigeonholed into one thing
Okay.
because my interests and particularities change from time to time. So I
Mhm.
don't want to be stuck doing any one thing. That's why I made myself into such a fashion I could accumulate different skill sets and use them in different fashions.
Okay.
So that's what I mean by jack of all trades, master of some. I'm really good at some things, but I can pretty much do it all.
Okay. But you know what you're good at.
Oh yeah, I
And
know
if
what
you
I'm
don't
good
do
at.
it, you're gonna
Yeah,
good.
if I'm not good at, I'm probably not
Right.
going to touch it.
So the other thing is since 2000, you've been an open source software debugger. What
Yeah.
does that mean to somebody like me?
Yeah, so I fix
He
things.
knows. I don't
I
know.
fix
Yeah.
stuff. So
Okay.
open source is a movement where basically it's software that anyone can use, anyone can work on, and it's looked at by a lot of people. That's what open source means. It's just ubiquitously used. Anyone can use it
Would I have ever run across that without knowing?
without knowing. Probably not.
Okay.
Oh
All right.
yeah, you would have blatantly have to say like this microphone is using software that uses open source technology
Okay.
to do
Gotcha.
audio
All right.
filtering.
So I've not missed anything.
No, you haven't
Okay.
missed
Good.
anything.
I
But the
like
long
that.
and short of it is it's something I believe in because it's technology that is in the past only available to like large expensive companies is now being brought down to consumers
Mhm.
being able to use it. And what I mean by I've been a debugger since 004 is I fix debugging needs fixing, like
Yep.
taking bugs out of you know about
Oh,
bugs.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
So
Mm.
it's basically taking the bugs out of software and
Yeah.
making them work. And that's something I've been doing since 2004 ish, because that's kind of going back to the America Online days. That's how I got my start into programming, is breaking things and then fixing them. Naturally,
Okay.
I became very good at debugging accidentally because that's how I learned how to. It's the
I understand that.
fancy word for fixing
I like
stuff.
that. So you were the guy in high school and college that everybody, Drago, my computer's down. Can you come look at it?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, that was me.
Even on Saturday
That
nights
was
when you're
me.
headed out,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
like, oh
that was
man,
me.
dude, I don't have time right now. It's Saturday.
The beauty of it most of the time, because computers are built really well these days, all I have to do is turn it on and off.
Yeah.
Most of the times, yeah.
But you don't
Most of
tell
the
us
times,
that
yeah.
to make us feel real stupid. Like, I looked at it, everything
Yeah,
changes
I
one
checked the quantum flux and everything's good to go.
topped off your oil and your
Yeah,
oil. Yeah, it's
yeah,
like, oh yeah.
little WD-40 in
Because
there.
most of us don't know. Well, actually, that's probably the easiest way for people like me is just to reboot it, right? You know,
Oh,
reboot it,
yeah,
walk away, and come back.
generally, yeah, yeah. Most problems you have, you could just reboot your computer and walk away.
All right, so you were you graduated biochemistry from state. So let's
Mhm.
talk about your nutrition, um, your passion for nutrition, and kind of how all that got started.
Yeah, it came a twofold thing. It was partially family health problems. There's some obesity and diabetes in my family, so that was a huge motivation. Also, going back to the cage fighting, I wanted to make sure my body was prepared to take this blunt force trauma. So nutrition was a natural path for me. I started learning about it, as I said, both for a physical reason in terms of being able to endure damage, as well as the health aspects of learning how to eat 6,000 calories a day and still stay at 6% body fat. It's not something everyone can do unless you have a
I
certain
can
amount of
do one. I
knowledge.
don't think I can do the
Yeah.
other. I
Yeah,
can
we
do
can
one.
we can eat
I can
6,000
do the six
calories. Yeah.
thousand, not a
But the
problem.
long and short of it is the nutrition came about as a result of a need.
Mhm.
I needed to protect my body physically, and I needed to help my family in terms of obesity and diabetes.
And you've lost a bunch of weight over the years, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, I don't really that's actually another thing a lot of people don't know about me is back in college, I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with the freshman 15.
Oh
I
yeah.
did that a few times. I got up to about 250, 260 pounds, and that's kind of when the nutrition thing kicked in. I'm like, "Oh, man, things gotta change, and I need to use this knowledge for my own benefit." So I went from 260 all the way down to 160, and then I added about 20, 25 pounds of muscle and came out about to 185,
Okay.
and that's where I spent my athletic career.
It's a mindset. You can read all the great diets and
Yeah.
you can Google, there's 5,000 of those
There's
out there.
5,000
But
diets, yeah.
it's a life change, isn't it?
It's absolutely I'm glad you brought that up because that's how I like to talk about it. It's absolutely a lifestyle
Mhm.
change. The word diet is a huge misnomer.
Yeah.
Even when you're on a diet, it's not a temporary thing you go on. You have a diet that is how you eat for the rest of your life. It's a lifestyle change. The things I ate in college, I haven't eaten since. Like,
Ooh,
I don't
yeah.
do the Big Macs and the chicken McNuggets anymore. That's not me. I'm more of a, kale salad with a little portion of steak for my
Okay.
protein these days.
Moderation, like most things,
Yeah,
right? You
yeah.
can do a lot of things, it's just moderation. I always love the commercials on TV, and I won't go into the names of because everybody knows which ones they are. And they talk about follow this plan, you'll lose weight, and they never mention exercising.
Yeah.
And the two, they have to go hand in hand, right?
They do. They are hand in hand, but to be perfectly honest, most of the work, as I like to say, I didn't make this phrase up, by the way, but I like to use the phrase "abs are made in the kitchen," and that is 100% true. Most of the weight
Okay.
loss is done in the kitchen with the choices that you make with the foods you eat. The metabolic and caloric impact of a Big Mac that you buy from
No,
McDonald's is not the same as even a hamburger you make at home.
correct.
So
Yeah.
that little thing in and of itself, it can extrapolate into huge things. We're talking about hundreds of calories or different meals day in and day out.
So what's your go-to snack in the middle of the afternoon? Because that's where a lot of us can get in trouble, especially if we're at home on a Saturday and you go start going through the freezer. And I got Bluebell ice cream in there
Yeah,
and I got other
yeah.
things there, which I love. What's a go-to snack in the afternoon for you?
That one's actually really easy. I'm glad you asked me that. And my answer is going to be applicable for a lot of people because a lot of people like sweet things as a
Mhm.
snack. So what I like to go for is those drinkable yogurts. They got a little bit of sugar in them, so they're sweet. But the point
Mhm.
is, in a small, I don't know, like 6, 7 ounce bottle, something very
Okay.
small. You get like 9, 10 grams of protein, some fats
Yeah.
in there,
Okay.
and it's a great snack in the middle of the day. Get some probiotics, so
Yeah.
that's great for your gut.
Drinkable yogurt.
Yeah,
All right. Okay.
it's
I'll
kind
test
of it's
that.
kind of new here in the
Okay.
states. Yeah, it's not something that's been around. I only stumbled onto it about a year ago, so
Okay.
it's not terribly new.
All right.
Something to look at.
Huh.
Drinkable
I
yogurt.
will do that. I will
Yeah.
look into that. You are the first guest on the show of Serbian descent. You are
Right?
the first guest
Okay.
on the show not only can speak Serbian or Slavic languages, and you said you're a little bit Spanish.
Yeah. I learned Spanish in high school, and I am able to communicate. It just takes me a second to respond. So I can understand when someone's speaking to me.
Okay.
I just have to formulate my thoughts, and it takes me a second.
So how many countries could you land in right now and be able to talk your way to a hotel if you don't know where one is?
Oh, well, if we're just gonna leave it open-ended like
Yeah.
that, 100% because I got my phone. We got Google Translate now, my friend. So, yeah.
Okay, okay. Your phone doesn't work.
Okay,
How
my
many
phone doesn't
languages
work.
how many countries can you get to a hotel in from the airport?
Probably about half the countries on the planet,
Very nice.
probably. At least half, if not
Okay,
more.
so the Slavic languages include how many others? Like you mentioned earlier, Russian?
Yeah, a bunch. So think of, for those of you who don't are not aware of where Serbia and the former Yugoslavia are, it's right around Italy. So
Mhm.
think of Italy and going north, that part of the world, all the way up to Russia. There's a lot of Slavic countries in there.
Okay,
Czechoslovakia, Ukraine, those types of places.
right. So the family history with Serbia, tell us about who got here and
Yeah,
what the connections
so
are and
my
everything.
my 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 grandparents came here. Don't remember the year to be honest, but we'll just leave it at that. My grandparents came here, I guess, back in the 50s ish.
Okay,
My mom grew up in Canada. To clarify, yeah, Canada is what we're talking about, not the states here. My grandparents immigrated to Canada. That's where my mother grew up. My father came to Canada right around the time he met my mother,
okay.
and then I guess the family immigrated to the states around 1992.
Now where was your mother born?
In in the former Yugoslavia, but
Okay, both your
right,
parents
yeah,
were.
both
Okay,
parents were
gotcha.
born in the
All
former
right.
Yugoslavia, specifically Serbian and Bosnia. But then my mother came over basically right after she was born. She was very, very
Okay.
young, maybe 3, 4, 5 years old. She grew up in Canada, and my dad grew up in Serbia, and then he came over to Canada as an adult.
All right, so my daughter-in-law was born in Canada, so she's got dual
Yeah,
citizenship. Do you have dual?
I have triple actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I was born in Canada. I have American citizenship because I applied for it,
Okay.
but because of my blood nature, I always have citizenship in home.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's by blood.
Oh, all right. Hadn't thought about the 3rd one
Well,
yet. Yeah.
old school.
It
Yeah,
makes sense, yeah.
yeah,
So your passport looks pretty cool, right?
yeah. Well, I
Okay.
mean, I only have 1 passport I use. I just use my American passport
Yeah,
these
but you got a
days.
lot of okay,
Yeah.
stuff on it. So you had to apply for American citizenship even though you lived in Canada
Mhm.
because you were born there, okay, moved here, and so the whole family had to, right?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we had green cards right off the bat. That's why
Okay.
we were able to move here, and so we just used green cards for the longest time. Honestly, because my parents were uneducated about how things worked in the States in terms of the military,
Mhm.
they were terrified that the military was gonna draft me and take their son
Uh,
away.
okay.
So that's why they stayed as green card citizens rather than becoming actual citizens, and then once I became an adult, I'm like, "Oh, well, it's not really how it works, so we can all become citizens. It'll be alright."
Why Arizona?
Arizona, probably as a result of my mom's work. I like to say we were a military brat family minus the military part because we
Okay.
moved around a ton. We moved around a ton growing up. And that's because just my mom, she was in medicine, she was a nurse. And so we had to go wherever the jobs were.
Yeah.
And at that point, the West Coast, I guess, was hungry for nurses.
Okay. Huh. Alright, so if we ever need a translator in BNI from any different language, did you get it? Is there and we talked about this earlier, there's no real big Serbian community in the triangle?
Not in the triangle per se, but there's one in Greensboro, which is,
Yeah.
only 45 minutes away. Not
Have
too
you
bad.
gone to visit? Do
Oh
you
yeah,
have any
we've
connection?
gone
Okay.
up there a couple times. My
Okay.
parents go almost weekly. I
Oh,
go up
do
there
they?
for major holidays. We have church up there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's a nice little community.
Alright.
Very little,
So how do Serbians, do Christmas?
just like everyone
Same
else.
way?
Yeah,
Bunch of
same.
presents?
Bunch of
Family?
presents, family, trees, food.
I like that.
Food's the biggest thing in our
Oh, yeah.
culture. Food is huge in our culture.
Okay. Is it healthy?
I would say so
Okay.
for the
Still
most
eat a
part.
lot of it?
Yeah. The stuff I like because I was raised here in the States, so I didn't eat that much ethnic
Oh,
food.
yeah.
I was obviously hanging out with my American friends, so
Alright.
McDonald's was part of the diet back then.
Part of
So,
everybody's
but
diet, yeah.
the foods I did like from Serbia, yeah, I still eat them to this day.
You cook much?
Oh yeah, I
Okay.
cook a ton. Ever since I got even more so nutrition, I
Mhm.
do as much of my own cooking as I
And
possibly
that way you
can.
know what you're eating.
That's what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
just I'm very familiar with all the xenoestrogens and all the different products. That's why I try to cut down on plastic. I drink out of glass exclusively. Like I don't
Yes.
even have plastic water bottles. I have
Okay.
glass water bottles.
Yeah. That makes sense. My niece does the same thing as I have about a 60-ounce metal container,
Perfect.
but
There
I
you
call
go.
drinking water out of it. She was they were visiting in for Thanksgiving, and she saw that. She goes, kudos, Uncle Mike. You're not
Yeah.
drinking out of plastic." And I didn't think of it that way, but it's like, okay, that makes sense. I just bought it because it's big, and
Yeah.
it would hold a bunch of water for the whole
It fit a
day.
purpose for you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and plus plastic, I know is not gonna keep it cold, so I'm with you on
Yeah.
that. But there's There's a good reason for all that stuff too, right?
Yep,
Keeping
there is.
plastics out of it and
There
everything.
there
So,
is, yeah,
good for you.
especially in this day and age, yeah,
Yeah.
with all the different environmental stuff.
So what goals for 20 what are we coming up, 2019 already
2019, yep.
for for the nutrition part of your passion? What are you gonna try to accomplish for that 2019 calendar year?
That's a great question, actually, and I'm now able to answer it. I've actually recently, I met an individual who has the same passions as mine about the nutrition industry. He also is able to see the various, how do I phrase it? Situations that we've gotten here into the States in terms
Mhm.
of nutrition. One example, I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but for a while, medical science was like, "Hey, eggs are bad for you," and that's something very, very strange. So, long story
Yeah.
short, I was able to connect with an individual who shares the same passions as mine, and we're going to be doing a documentary in 2019 about how the FDA established all the guidelines that we have today, why they
Oh,
are the way they are, and how they're wrong.
yeah. Eggs and peanut butter. I keep hearing different things on, just changes.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
milk,
yeah, where you
right?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
another thing. But there's a caveat to that one. In my personal opinion, store-bought milk ain't that great for you because it's been heated up and homogenized. The
Okay.
fat molecule's been messed with. Raw milk is fantastic. I drink raw milk. Everyone in my family does.
All right.
I can't say enough good things about raw milk.
Okay. Going back to BNI, what you've learned, what you've used. What? Oh, calling you or calling me? Hello, this is
Uh,
Mike.
I'm the wrong number.
Okay, not a
Nope,
problem.
wrong caller.
We'll talk to you anyways. I always like to ask people, so the people watching and listening, to give them an idea of the benefits of BNI. Is there a percentage number you could put on your bottom line or number of clients that have come from BNI?
Yeah, actually, I could. It's a rough number because I do look at the numbers every month, but the rough number is about 25%.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
So you go to one place and you get 25% of your pretty close to 25% of your
25%.
bottom line.
Yeah, you can't really say that much
I
about a lot of places.
No, no, and a lot of people get hung up on BNI because it's a weekly meeting. There's a commitment to it, but if you look at it, it's $445 a year, and you're getting 25% of your bottom line from that. Why would you not show up and
Yeah,
make those
and
relationships and grow your business that
as you're
way?
saying, if you're halfway good at your job,
Yeah,
I can attest to the fact that our BNI bill was paid for within the first month.
yeah,
We got a
and for
client
you
within
could
the
be in the
first
next
month.
10, 20 years,
Yeah,
and it's paid for.
yeah.
Oh, love those stories. But that's the beauty of BNI. If you come in and because you have to work it.
You do. It's a commitment, like you
Yeah,
said. You gotta
you
be there
do.
every week. You gotta be
Yeah.
on time. You gotta be responsible. Yeah.
But when you start and another thing with BNI is givers gain. The more you give, the more you're gonna get back, and that's true in life, and if you stop and think about your life, if you look at it with your friends, your family, and your job, you know what? The more things I do, the more things I get back. It's the same thing with us with BNI, and that's why we like it so much, and a lot of people find out once they because BNI will be worth X amount to them, and then once they step up the number of referrals they give, then that bottom line number jumps.
Mm,
And I've heard that from many people, and I firmly believe that that number, if you were just doing you and not giving referrals, you I don't know, 10, 15, 12% or whatever.
probably.
But just by giving most all those referrals back. And it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I love going to mine every Thursday morning. We laugh and get together and we have family friends and it's almost like family and friends. And you have, especially with the holidays coming up, gathering somebody's house for a
Yeah.
party, things like that, stuff
And
like that.
that's going back to when you asked me how many do we visit when we chose one. It's really important that you do visit a couple of BNIs so you
Yeah.
find that group that you really like, and it's more of a friendship than a business relationship.
Mm.
'Cause I can honestly say that about the relationship I have with my cohorts.
It is.
It's
Yeah.
more of a friendship than it is a business relationship.
It is, and that's who you're gonna refer in general, even if you're not in BNI. You're gonna
Yeah.
everybody who's not in BNI, if somebody calls us, "Hey, do you know a computer person? I've got a friend of mine needs help." Who are you gonna send there? And I tell people all the time, "Who are you gonna send to your mother?"
Yeah, exactly.
Bottom line, if there's somebody you
That's a
did
great
not
way of thinking
trust,
about it.
you're not sending them to your mother. I don't want that phone call. Well, why'd you send me this guy? The other thing I like about BNI that I always make sure I want to talk about is many, many BNI members give back to the community. And I love this again on your website. I like people that'll put something in print. It's one thing to say
Yeah.
something, oh, we do that. And you kind of shirk it,
And then yeah, yeah.
you're like, you
Mhm.
walk away. Kind of, we do that. But you have on your website that 25% of your work hours are donated to nonprofits.
Yeah, so let's just take a second to chat about that. If there are any nonprofits out there listening, We donate 5 free hours to anyone with a 501(c)(3) designation. So if you're a legitimate nonprofit and something's wrong with your website, it's broken, there's some links messed up, whatever, we can donate 5 hours of free work to you guys.
So if you go to Oak City Technology, you can get in touch with Drago that way. How did all that start? And why do you give
And
back to the community?
yeah, so this I guess kind of another story thing. When Oak City was getting started, I kind of surveyed the platform. I interviewed basically, for lack of a better term, my competition. I asked them how they did things, what they were doing, what was working for them, what was not working for them. And the one glaring thing, customer service stuff aside, the one glaring thing I noticed, there was not a community piece to that. And so that's why we decided, all right, if we're charging X amount of money to people who can afford our services, we're making decent living to put food on our table, we can afford to give away some hours to nonprofits who need our help. And that's really where that came from, is recognizing we're in a good position in terms of how much we can afford to charge people to put food on our plate for our family.
Yeah.
So it's no problem to give away 5 hours to people who actually need it.
And have you had some takers on that?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I hate saying it this way, but we unfortunately have a wait list
Okay.
for how much work we have to
All
do,
right.
which is a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
I like that we have people to help, but unfortunately, we can only afford to give away about 5 free hours per organization. So that's
Yeah.
why there's a little bit of wait.
Okay. And are a lot of these fixes time consuming? Or are they just simple things that you can do to?
Yeah, some of them are time consuming, and we're honest with people and say, hey, we can't do this in 5 hours. It's gonna take a little more. Other
Yeah.
things are quick 20-minute things, and
Yeah.
that's the end of it. We just handle it, and that's the end of the story.
Okay. Very
Yeah,
nice.
it
And
really depend on the situation.
yeah. And again, those are the well-rounded people that you're going to meet in BNI when you visit or join the chapter. It's people like that. They're concerned about their fellow members in a chapter. They're concerned about the community. And I can't say enough about BNI. We've talked about that all the time, on the quality of people you're going to meet that will help you start or grow a business. And some businesses in BNI have been around 25, 30 years, and they're still in BNI because their bottom line shows that. We've had guests on the show that have been in there a long time, and it works. It works. So please go to trianglebni.com or give the office a call at 919-465-1667. Talk to Steve or Mary or Brenda, and they'll give you some information on that. All right. So the end of 2018, you've had a good year. What are the plans for 2019? Where do you see the growth? How do you see growing?
2019, we want to continue pushing our recurring revenue. And what I mean by that is not one offs. So we've had some success in the last several months getting contracts that allow us to get revenue monthly. And that's something we want to continue into 2019. So less one off, hey, make a website, we're done. More so, hey, let's make a website and do a marketing plan to drive visitors.
And how far out will you go for business?
Oh, well, we're a national business, so we're able to work remotely with anyone around the country. In terms of North Carolina, we'll drive as far as Charlotte.
Okay. All right. Anybody outside the country you have?
Yeah,
Clients yet?
we have a couple clients in London, a couple
Mhm.
clients in Egypt,
Mhm.
but we're mostly a national
Yeah. How'd they find you or how'd you find them?
through our website. We're pretty good at this SEO thing. So when people need something, they type it into a search engine. Chances are our website's gonna pop up.
And even more reason to call Oak City Technologies because you want to call the people that show up first on
Yeah.
the list.
That's what I meant by eating my own dog food. Yeah, I not only have to have a good website that is good in Google's eyes in terms of appearance and speed load, but also has to show up on search engines. No one's
Yeah.
gonna hire me for SEO if I don't show up for SEO, right?
Yeah. So if somebody calls you looking to build a website or grow a website, what are the 2 or 3 questions we should ask if we're interviewing somebody to maybe come on to build our website for us?
But what should you ask
What should
the
I ask you?
person?
Yeah,
Yeah, what should
when
you
I'm
ask
in,
me?
to
Um,
find out that you're the person I
yeah.
should need to work with.
The best thing to ask is the person's, I guess, philosophy on web design and the web development process. And going back to what we're talking about is the mobile switchover. If people aren't using the right terms of I can build you a responsive website, if they're not saying the right things, that's kind of a big tip off. We're in a place right now where I think you mentioned it earlier in the show where people with half knowledge kind of are in the industry and make
Mhm.
problems for the rest of us. And that
Yep.
that that is one thing that's actually a big problem is my industry. People who learn how to do one thing, all of a sudden they say, "Oh, I'm a developer and a marketer and all this jazz." But I guess the one overarching question would be like, what have you done before? Like, what are your
Mhm.
qualifications that shows that you can do the same thing for me? That'd be the one big question I would
I
ask.
know you've told about a couple of times one of the times, I think the first time I heard you do your 10 minutes, you had talked about a company that was having trouble selling tickets for a convention.
Yes.
tell a little bit more about that. And this probably explains as good of a way in as good a way as how you guys do your business.
Yeah, so yeah, perfect example actually. Long story short is technology company that has a conference in June. They basically started advertising around April of this year, uh, 2018. We're still talking 2018. Long story short, from April to June, not much action happens. They tried Google AdWords, it didn't work out. They attempted Facebook advertising, but they couldn't literally get the campaign to work, so that didn't work out. They came to us and basically said, "Hey, our conference is in 2 weeks. We're not selling the amount of tickets we need. Can you help us out?" And long story short, we were able to employ Facebook advertising to get the amount of customers they needed. The way we did that was employing best practices. So when designing an ad for a conference, for example, you want to do three things. You want to list prominently the date, you want to list the location prominently, and I mean prominently, it needs to be big, bold. And then obviously, the subject matter of the image needs to be conducive to what's going on. So, what I mean by that is if we're trying to sell tickets for a conference, there needs to be people walking. And that what the ad was. It was people walking and talking to
I
show
love that about
action.
it. Yeah.
It shows action. So when people see action, they want to buy. So that's what we did. We figured out what their target demographic was. They told us. We targeted those people on Facebook with the appropriate imagery and text. And long story short, we sold the appropriate amount of tickets and filled up the conference. 2 weeks to go.
And when you mentioned action in a picture, it immediately thought of, okay, when I see a picture of a classroom or an auditorium, everybody's sitting there and somebody on stage. And I understood it as soon as you said that. And I connected like, "Oh, that's right. I'm gonna be sitting there for 7 hours."
Yeah, yeah.
Don't really want to do that. So any goals for BNI to grow the number of referrals in your BNI chapter? How do you look at that for goals to include in your marketing
Yeah,
campaign for
that's
2019?
another great question. So I basically spent the last half of 2018 learning from other BNIs, for lack of a better term. So I'd visit other BNIs, ask their web seats and their marketing people, like, how's BNI working for you? You know, what works, what doesn't. And the long and short of it is, and something I also picked up from you and Mary is, I think the key for us is going to be more visitors.
Mhm.
The, for lack of a better term, people collisions, people just running into people is kind of what I think is going to propel Oak City and our BNI chapter to the next level.
Very good. If you want to meet more people like Drago, you can go to first of all to get with Drago, you can go to Oak City Technology to his website and get up with him. And I think you've learned pretty well how they're wired and what they look to do, and so they do some good work. But also people like Drago and BNI everywhere in all the chapters, concerned about helping others, have a great story to tell, have a good track record. So we recommend that you come out, just visit a chapter, even if you don't have any designs on joining BNI right now. Just come out, join a chapter. You never know. Once you get in a room, meet some people, you may find out it's going to change kind of how you looked at things, especially for 2019. We hope you join us next week on Triangle BNI. Our guest is Noemi Rodriguez with Victorian Finance. We'll see you next week on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.